Command sent her condolence letters, then she appeared on base carrying 2 wounded SEALs. They said she was gone, killed in action, her name engraved on the list before the dust even settled. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Keene, 32 years old, helicopter pilot, call sign Echo 7. A rescue pilot known for precision, calm under fire, and a stubborn refusal to quit. When the condolence letters went out, her family wept. Her squadron held a moment of silence. And at Naval Air Station Fallon, a flag flew at half-mast for a woman who was very much still alive. It began 3 nights before the report, in the mountains of Kunar Province, Afghanistan. A SEAL team, Bravo 2-1, had gone dark after an ambush during a reconnaissance sweep. But Sarah volunteered anyway. Her commanding officer, Commander Holt, warned her not to fly. Visibility's 0, Keene. Even the drones are blind tonight. She just looked at him, that quiet, steady stare pilots have when their decision's already made. Sir, if those men are out there, they're not dying alone. At 200 hours, Echo 7 lifted off into the fog. Rotor wash churned the mist into white rivers. Her co-pilot, Ensign Ramos, said it felt like flying through milk. They made it over the first ridge, barely, using terrain mapping and instinct. Then the radio crackled with a faint distress call. This is Bravo 2-1, 2 men down, coordinates under fire. Seconds later, static. The valley below erupted with tracer fire. Rounds cracked against the fuselage like hail. We've got incoming. Hang on, we're going in low. The bird dipped under radar, weaving through black canyons, but a lucky shot hit their tail rotor. The helicopter spiraled, hit a rocky slope, and disappeared from radar. Command logged the crash as a total loss. No signal, no survivors. By dawn, the Pentagon had already drafted the condolence notices. Back at NAS Fallon, Commander Holt signed her death report with trembling hands. He'd known her since her first day in flight school, the daughter of a Navy diver, raised on bases, taught to salute before she could write her name. Her fellow pilots placed her nameplate on the memorial wall. And somewhere across the ocean, her mother, a retired nurse, opened a letter that began, "The Department of the Navy regrets to inform you. 2 valleys away, under the wreckage of Echo 7, Sarah Keene was still breathing. Her left arm was broken, blood soaked her flight suit. Ramos was unconscious, his headset shattered, and smoke filled the cockpit. Outside, the gunfire hadn't stopped. But through the ringing in her ears, she heard something else. A voice faint but familiar. This is Bravo 2-1, anyone copy?" She dragged herself from the wreck, half crawling, half sliding down the slope. The SEAL team was 2 clicks east, pinned down in a dry riverbed. She patched up Ramos with field gauze, grabbed the emergency beacon, and started walking. For 36 hours, the Navy had no idea she was alive. Satellites saw nothing but burned metal and snow. But down in that valley, Sarah was fighting a different war, the one between giving up and holding on. She moved at night, resting by day. At dawn, she reached the SEAL perimeter, 4 men still alive, 2 severely wounded. Their leader, Chief Petty Officer Blake, couldn't believe what he saw. "Ma'am, how the hell?" Sarah just dropped her rifle, breath ragged. "I heard your call." She tore strips from her own uniform to stop the bleeding, set broken bones with her one good arm, and used the wreck's medical kit to keep them alive. By the second night, the fog rolled in thicker than ever. Insurgents were closing in. She had a choice, wait for rescue or become the rescue. By dawn, 2 of the SEALs couldn't walk. So she improvised, built a makeshift litter from rotor fragments and cargo webbing. Then she hoisted 1 man onto her shoulders and started up the ridge. For 6 hours she climbed. Rocks tore her flight boots, blood froze in her gloves. Behind her, the fog swallowed the valley whole. Ahead, silence until the faint rumble of engines in the distance. At 900 hours, a recon team from Task Force Red Eagle spotted movement near the ridge. Through binoculars, they saw a figure, uniform in tatters, face smeared with dirt and smoke, carrying 2 men on her back. The commander radioed in disbelief. "We've got Echo 7? Repeat, Echo 7 is alive." Back at Fallon, the radio room went silent. Commander Holt, still wearing the black ribbon for her memorial, stared at the comms officer. "Say again." "Echo 7 recovered, sir, alive, 2 wounded SEALs in tow." He didn't speak. He just sat back in his chair, eyes wet, and whispered, "Damn it, Keene." When the C-130 landed on the base tarmac 48 hours later, everyone came out. Marines, Navy personnel, flight crews, even civilians. The back hatch lowered. There she was, pale, exhausted, one arm in a sling, walking beside the stretchers she'd carried herself. The crowd parted. No one said a word. Commander Holt stepped forward. He didn't salute, he just stood there, eyes locked on hers. "You weren't supposed to make it out." Neither were they. And for the first time in his career, Holt saluted first. 3 days later, an internal inquiry began. The report of her death had been filed too fast. Command had relied on satellite imaging without physical confirmation. An investigation uncovered a disturbing truth. Her mission had been denied authorization hours before takeoff. But someone had manually overridden the system to mark it as approved. The digital signature belonged to Colonel Briggs, an operations officer with a history of covering up risk mismanagement. Briggs had refused to authorize the rescue because of weather-based risk limitations. But when the crash report came in, he ordered the condolence letters immediately, closing the file to protect his metrics. When Sarah's survival became public, the cover-up began to unravel. The military tribunal convened behind closed doors. Sarah sat in her dress whites, right arm still bandaged, eyes hollow but steady. Across from her sat Briggs, flanked by lawyers. The panel asked her to recount every detail. She did, calmly, factually, without anger. At the end, she looked at the panel and said quietly, "Sir, I don't care about medals or promotions, but no one should be written off while they're still fighting." That single line became the headline the next morning. Rescue pilot declared dead challenges Navy command over accountability. Within weeks, Briggs was reassigned, later quietly retired. Commander Holt was promoted, though he never mentioned it in her presence. Sarah refused any medal higher than what her crew already earned. But the story spread across the armed forces like wildfire, a living reminder that bureaucracy should never come before humanity. At training bases, instructors played her radio transmissions for new recruits. Her voice, calm and unwavering under fire, became legend. "If those men are out there," she'd said, "they're not dying alone." Months later, at the base chapel, she stood before the memorial wall again, the one where her nameplate still hung among the fallen. She didn't ask for it to be removed. Instead, she left it there, a reminder, she said, of the day the system forgot its own. A young ensign asked her why. She smiled faintly. "Because some of us have to die on paper to wake the living." 1 year to the day, she returned to duty. Her new assignment, instructor pilot, search and rescue command. Her students knew the story. They never asked her to repeat it, but when she spoke, they listened. She taught them not just about flight paths or rescue maneuvers, but about judgment, about the invisible weight of command decisions. "Flying's easy," she'd say. "What's hard is knowing when to go anyway." In every generation, there are soldiers who vanish between the lines, lost to miscommunication, error, or indifference. But sometimes one returns, carrying not just the wounded, but the truth itself. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Keene didn't come back to prove anyone wrong. She came back because someone was still counting on her. And maybe that's what courage really is. Not medals, not orders, not even survival, but the refusal to let another name be carved in stone before the fight is done. True courage isn't in battle, but in standing for what's right, even when you stand alone.